Just doing my thing here.
I'll
talk about that later.
I think we're going.
All right.
Welcome, American Hammers TV. Thursday night episode, regular Thursday night episode with our friend Tony in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania.
How's it going?
All right. How are you doing?
Great. Thanks for having me.
Oh, well, listen, we're glad you're here. And he's also more famous for the American West Ham podcast, of course. And Justin, our buddy in Chicago, who's been on the show before.
What's up, guys?
Hey, how you doing?
Doing well. How are you guys?
Yeah, we're okay. I'm okay. So, you know what we have to do first? Before everything else, we have to talk about Strava Craft Coffee.
Of course.
Now, I will tell you, as I mentioned all the time on this show, I don't actually drink coffee. It's nothing personal. I'm just not a coffee drinker. But Tim loves this coffee, and everybody who's ordered this coffee has loved it. And as soon as we procure a way to grind the beans, because we don't have one of those in our house, then we're going to grind the beans. We're going to brew some. And my mother, my 74-year-old mother, is going to try some coffee with the CBD oil in it now that I have assured her that she will not become an addict if she has Strava Craft coffee. Nor will she be arrested, at least in Massachusetts. Everything will be fine. So, anyway.
Lee, do you take CBD oil?
I don't think you can taste it. No.
Just the effects?
No, like, do you take it? Do you actually like?
Oh, do I take it? I've never tried it. I've never tried
it.
Have you tried it?
Yeah, I actually just started a few days ago, and yeah, like obviously it's not the psychoactive compound, so you don't get high or anything, but it just, for me at least, it sort of like focuses me, puts me in the present. I would recommend it to people that are maybe like have joint pain because it can help with inflammation or things like that. So yeah.
I need to look into that.
Really?
I work in a restaurant, so my body is. I have a day job and a night job. My night job's a restaurant, and I'll tell you what, it's a grind. However, I guess this isn't Tony's night job. Hang out. This is the American Hammers TV, so I'll let you go ahead and do your thing over there.
This is turning into my night job. You know, I just got my boys to bed. I mean, like very late, like 10 minutes ago, maybe 20 minutes ago, and I was giving my son a bath, and he says, "Why do you do this every night?" I said, "I do it twice a week, and you're in bed. What do you care? You're not even awake." So, but anyway, I think they're West Ham fans. I think I'm turning them into West Ham fans, and that's all that really counts.
They don't have a choice, do they?
No, they don't have a choice. No. Well, they can either not watch football, or they can support West Ham, but they can't, support anybody else. So, so anyway, glad you guys are here. Tony, this is your first time on the show.
This is.
And you are in Harrisburg, which you were just telling me right before we started is 2 hours from Philly. It's a little drive from Philly.
Yeah. So it's about I used to go to Temple University in Philadelphia until I moved to Oxford and then back to my hometown. And it's a bit of a trek to get to Philadelphia. So for anyone who listens to the podcast knows that I usually watch in bed. I don't get to do the fun groups like everybody else does. So I might have to try and start something up in Harrisburg. I know there's a lot of Spurs fans in my town, but that's the other reason I don't go out to the bars.
I don't blame you. I wouldn't want to go out with them either. No, I would avoid them too. Yeah. So Harrisburg, now how far are you from Jim and Pam in Scranton and the Office gang?
Scranton is a good. Oh goodness me! I don't really typically go to Scranton. Nothing against any of your Scranton listeners, but I don't know. Listen, I hate Harrisburg, but if I had to choose Harrisburg or Scranton, I'm choosing Harrisburg. Scranton, I think, is about an hour and 45. I would say.
So it'd take you a while.
I have no idea.
Yeah. To get to Dunder Mifflin, then. Yeah. All right. Just wondering. I haven't been to either place. I've been to Philly. I've been to Pittsburgh.
Okay.
I've been to Allentown, Pennsylvania.
I hate Pittsburgh. I absolutely hate Pittsburgh with a passion. I'm a big Philly guy. Eagles, Sixers, Flyers, Union, all that. Penn State, Temples. I hate Pittsburgh Steelers, Penguins, all of them. So I don't even want to hear that name tonight. Please don't even say that word.
That's fine with me. I actually went to a college football game in Morgantown in West Virginia.
Oh, okay. So Mountaineers.
Yeah, I went to TCU, so I saw TCU play West Virginia like 6-8 years ago. The friend I stayed with lived in Pittsburgh, but I saw very little of Pittsburgh. But anyway, and you mentioned Oxford. Now that is the Oxford as in England, not like Oxford, Mississippi.
No, that's Oxford as in United Kingdom, yes. So I studied for about a half a year at Oxford Brookes University. But if anyone ever asks me, I say, oh, I studied in Oxford. I don't tell them it was Oxford Brookes. I tell them I studied in Oxford.
That's like you go to school in Cambridge, Mass, right? Not
Yes,
necessarily
exactly.
Harvard or MIT, but you went to school in Cambridge. My wife actually has a master's from Oxford, believe it or not.
Oh, Jesus.
Yes, well, she's very smart. The only dumb thing she ever did was marry me. So, other than that, she's very smart. No, she has a master's in theology from Oxford and studied there back in the it must have been like the late '90s. But
Then she should know Brooks, right up the road in Headington.
oh, I'm sure she does. Yeah, I'm sure she does. She never watches this, so she'll never talk about it. She has no interest in this stuff. But yeah, but I'm sure she does. So this leads me to, I guess, the pretty obvious question: how did you get into West Ham?
So I got into West Ham. I usually tell the same story. About 8 to 10 years ago. I don't remember the exact day, if I'm honest with you. I actually played soccer my whole life, pretty poorly. But one of the main things was, which will probably be I realize nowadays is not so hot, but I used to follow Celtic.
Okay.
When I first started watching soccer internationally, I followed Celtic. Not understanding when I was very young the whole IRA and Celtic Rangers. I was just like, oh, Celtic's what's on TV, so I'll watch that.
How old are you when you started watching Celtic?
I was probably maybe 12,
So
13.
You got into soccer pretty early on then.
Yeah. I mean, I remember watching on illegal streams, Don't Come Get Me, ATDHE, First Row Sports back in the day. Until I was like, all right, well, I want to watch the Premier League. And one of the first games I watched was Chelsea West Ham. And one of my best friends, Clay, is a Chelsea fan. And I was like, okay, well, I'm going to pick the team that's opposite of you. And that's exactly how it happened. Boom, right there. Picked a random team.
This is when you were a teenager still.
Yeah, this is when I'm a teenager. Picked a random team. And I believe the reason I say 8 to 10 years ago, because it was the year before we got relegated. The year that we got relegated in 2000.
2011.
Yeah, 2010, 2011, because we came back up 11, 12.
Yep.
So 2010, 11 was my first season of religiously watching every game.
Yeah.
Which was the worst season to ever start watching.
Which was the worst season to start watching. And West Ham was the turd in the punch bowl because for me, that was the season. TCU won the Rose Bowl in January. The Bruins won the Stanley Cup in June. But in the middle of that, West Ham got relegated and ruined the whole thing. So, just like West Ham to have that kind of timing, right, with everything else that was going on. So before you went to England, you were into West Ham, and it wasn't like you had a conversion experience over there.
So that's what forced me to move there, though. I told my parents it was for school, but I ended up going over to England for the first time, the final season at the Bowling. So I watched all these games on TV my whole life, and well, not my whole life, but my time of following West Ham, and I was like, I have to go. I have to go see this. So long story short, I went to the opening 2 games of the season, Leicester and Bournemouth, and if hopefully both y'all remember, we lost. We lost both of them.
I do remember. Yes,
I was sick to my stomach, absolutely sick. It was. Listen,
we beat Arsenal to start off that year, and there were high hopes, right?
And then we beat. Was it Liverpool the week after I left?
Yeah, we beat them 3-0. Yeah, I think that was Brendan Rodgers' last game, or one of them.
Was that the one at Anfield?
That was at Anfield. That was the first time we won there
in like 54 years,
first
right?
Time since 1963. Yeah. That was Payet. That was Dimitri. Yeah.
So that was crazy. So I was heartbroken. I try to be a manly man. I'll happily admit to all the viewers that I cried a little bit. I was so heartbroken. After spending all my time, money, energy, love for West Ham, I go over there. That was my first real trip to England, and we lost both games. I didn't cry, but I was a little alligator tear.
It's okay to cry.
And,
it's going to make you cry. That's part of the deal. I don't think there's anything. I think everybody would admit to that at some point. Yeah.
So I made a very, very, very good friend who at the time was just a random cool guy, but he really helped me out. And I said, man, I got to come back again. I really do. I got to see us win at the Bowling Ground. So I went back over for Sunderland on Saturday, Spurs on a Wednesday night, and Everton away the following Saturday, and we won all 3.
Yeah.
That game was the one we came back from 2-0, right?
I mean, I don't know if we can see this, but I have there's the camera. I have chills going up my arm right now every time I talk about Everton away. Greatest day of my entire life. I was at USA Mexico, 2-0. I've been to some crazy games, but Everton away was probably the best game of my entire life. Easy.
That was when Payet scored
The winner.
He scored
Because it was Sacco and Carroll, I believe.
Okay, I was thinking if he scored one or two, but he scored that winner, and it was a crazy
Carroll backheeled it.
Yep.
And then Payet just ran and just tapped it in.
Yeah.
I remember tumbling 6 rows in front of me. It was absolute carnage. It was I swear to God. You ever see you guys? I mean, we see these videos all the time of people tumbling. That was me. They were grabbing me by the shirt while I was like rolling down. It was the greatest thing. I'm not even kidding. Greatest day of my life.
It was a great day out afterwards too.
Oh yeah. Well, it was my first ever away game. So we were there beforehand having some beers. Unfortunately, we had to drive back down to the south. So we didn't get to live it up in Liverpool. I didn't I have a Hilton discount now. Back in the day, I didn't have that. So
yeah, I haven't been to West Ham away. That's something I really want to do.
Gotta do it.
We're really hoping to get over there sometime next season. And the problem is you got to be over there long enough to do home and away.
Mm-hmm.
Usually move the whole week to 10 days, right? Unless you can catch a midweek game, but then you never know if Sky is going to move that.
That's the problem, man.
Yeah. So, but that's awesome that you were at that game. That's one of the most memorable West Ham games in the last I don't know how many years. And the Tottenham game, now was that the one? That was when we beat them 1-0, right?
Yep, Antonio. It was the final Spurs win at the Bowling. Which the picture was it Tim or you who posted that today?
I don't remember.
So whoever posted the preview picture for the episode today,
that was Tim. Yeah, Tim does all the work. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Well, whoever posted a picture of me from that game where I'm standing there like at the game. Yes. It was my favorite picture I've ever taken. I use it for everything. It was a fantastic night. Have you guys ever heard the song "Intoxicated" by Martin Sovereign? Is that how you pronounce it?
Probably not, because I'm way too old.
The DJ?
Yeah.
I'm not really good with song titles, but I had like an EDM.
Intoxicated. Okay, yeah, I'm a bad singer.
Maybe, yeah.
Point of story is I listened to that song before the game inside the Bowling pub. I was the first time I ever went to the Bowling pub.
Yeah.
And we won the Spurs game, and I listened to that song on repeat for 3 weeks, nonstop. Nonstop. Everything I did back at school, running. As you can see, I don't do much running now. Nonstop. So just brings back memories.
When Tottenham had a chance to go top of the table. If they had beaten us, they would have gone top.
Yeah. Yep.
And they never got there.
Yeah, that basically ended their title hopes.
It killed their title hopes. Yeah. It was amazing. It killed their title hopes. And then they finished third in a 2-horse race, which was truly remarkable.
Well, they put the pressure on, so good for them.
Although where they are now is, enviable, I guess. But
go Liverpool.
Yeah, but we beat them again this season, so hey, whatever happens, we're always the first to win in their new stadium. But so you went to school there for, you said half a year?
Yeah, about a half a year. I studied international law. I was starting a master's degree, but I'll tell you, I liked working in a pub much more. And I didn't actually do the studies I was needed to, if we're perfectly honest here. And I decided not to finish my degree. To come back to America, I was offered a job that I couldn't refuse. And here we are. So now I try to go over every other month or so, just a nice little weekend away.
To London.
Yeah. To London, yeah. Because, well, you guys are a little bit further, but this is why I always advocate, but I call it East Coast bias, and I feel bad. Because for me, I can do a weekend in London for under $700. Because I can drive to JFK, fly round trip Norwegian for $350, and then either stay at someone's house or you can get a cheap like hotel or hostel and get a game ticket and just eat on the cheap. You could do a weekend, in my opinion, for around $750.
Now, I mean, I've been in Boston. We're as close to England as you can get, really, and still be, in the United States. So, although it might be cheaper to fly to JFK, I don't know. That seems possible. But yeah, I know what you're saying. It's very doable to get over there. I my current lifestyle is not conducive to going over to London for the weekend with a wife and 2 kids and a mother who lives with me. So, but that's cool. So now, when you went to the Tottenham game, when you went to Everton away, was that when you were a student there?
No, so that was – oh, yeah, I totally skipped that part. So I loved it that much. That trip was the greatest trip of my entire life. 3 soccer games. The first trip over, I said when I went to Leicester and Bournemouth games, I actually went to a whole bunch. I went to see Orient play at their ground. Back when they were in the championship, I went to see Wolves versus QPR. And I went to Southampton's Europa game versus is it Feyenoord or –
Feyenoord, yep.
Or some sort of one of those teams that starts with F, or I don't know. I couldn't even remember, honestly.
I used to live in Rotterdam, and that's where Feyenoord is, so I do know Feyenoord.
I was a big ground hopper, so I went and saw all those, but I need to go back and see West Ham. I saw us win 3 games. And I'm like, you know what? Screw it. I'm living this lifestyle. So I decided to start applying to schools, and it was either Oxford Brookes or University of East London. I ended up getting into both, but I picked Oxford Brookes. And then I had so we had a situation. So I said, okay, I'm going to move over here. But how am I going to get tickets every week, right? I don't have season ticket.
Yeah.
My very good friend had an extra ticket for most games, and he was very gracious to let me use it. However, if we're being honest, if we ever got to a cup final, he would obviously use that spare ticket for his family.
That's fair.
As I fully expect. I would never want to take advantage. Coincidentally, a few days later, I found somebody on Twitter selling their season ticket because they moved to Wales.
Oh, wow.
They're selling 2 tickets into Bobby Moore Lower. And I said, let me get those. Now, my buddy says to me, now you're going to pay somebody all this money that you don't know on Twitter if it's even real, right? He said, have them send a picture of where his seats are. His seats are my seats now are the 2 seats right behind him in a 50,000 stadium.
Whoa!
It was fate. It was fate.
Yeah.
So now I have 2 season tickets. That's what I was texting you right beforehand. I actually just renewed. The deadline is tomorrow midday in America. So I just renewed today. I was going home and away when I lived there, and I'm trying to move back. So we'll see what happens.
Nice. What's your plan on moving back? Because I know it's hard to do. Because I lived in France for a few years and spent a little time in Holland. But it's not. You can't just sort of go and stay there. You have to.
Right. So my undergraduate's in business law, but my real joy and love is hospitality. I love hospitality. I would do restaurant business my whole life if I could make enough money doing it. But problem is, if to live in UK to get a visa, you have to make at least £30,000, which is around $40,000, and without any advanced degrees, it's very difficult for an international to get paid that. So right now, I actually did get back into school, London Metropolitan University. And I might be moving back soon to study law again and actually study this time. So I'll either be starting this September upcoming or next September. So we'll see what the finances say, because I still have undergraduate loans. So God bless there.
But you're
Tony. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna bring it back a little bit because I'm always interested in hearing people's stories of how they got into West Ham, and a lot of people's stories are maybe like a different variety of yours. They sort of just pick the team.
Yep, picked them.
Obviously, we're from here. Majority of us don't have any ties to London.
Of course.
So for me, when I picked West Ham, I watched for like that 14-15 year was the first year I really started watching like semi-religiously, but it wasn't religiously. And for me, I didn't really get into it until I started watching with the crew in Chicago. Going to the pub every day, seeing the guys, that camaraderie, that was a good motivator.
Yep.
So I'm always interested not only in how people picked West Ham, but also how they basically kept up that fervor for the club, even though they're, on the other side of the world. And so what's that story like for you? How did you keep that fire?
How did I keep the fire going? So I'm looking at my TV screen right now because I pulled up the 2010-11 season because I wanted to look at the roster. Brawley and I looked at that the other day, and I was like, yep, that sounds about right. Jonathan Spector, Boa Morte, Tompkins, Gabby Dawn, all of them, right? But I still had that up in the corner, and you just had me thinking, You said right there that you kept the fire going and got excited by following. You said the Crew, right?
Oh, sorry. When I said the Crew, I meant like the Chicago Hammers, like the Crew.
Okay. Well, I thought you meant Columbus Crew. I was like, oh, okay, sure. Well, let me.
Whatever.
Well, I misunderstood what you were going for, but I actually just realized a correlation. The year that I started really watching West Ham, 2010 to 2011, is the year that the Philadelphia Union started in MLS.
Okay.
I never put 1 and 2 together until just this moment. I'm dead serious.
Do you think that has something to do with it?
I think so, because if you think about it, on a Saturday morning, get up 10 o'clock, watch West Ham on TV, hop in the car at 1 o'clock, drive to Philadelphia, go to a Union game at 3 or 4 o'clock. Soccer all day. Yeah, I used to. I used to have season tickets for them as well. Not anymore. They broke my heart. But yeah, so.
But you still support West Ham.
Yeah, well, see, to me that's different. I call West Ham that system in England of not being successful for me. I understand. Yeah. There's whole different levels of investment. Well, for me, the Philadelphia Union in MLS, there's such parity that you can be the worst team and be very good the next year. Yeah. So I have no excuses for 10 years and not one playoff win. But that's not a whole. Well, that's a whole other story.
The way I look at West Ham and the Premier League in general is, with West Ham, if we stay up, it's kind of an accomplishment. Mm-hmm. And this season was a better season, but in a lot of the time I've been following West Ham, 10, 12 years, however long it's been, maybe a little longer. I mean, in a lot of those seasons, just staying up was a big deal. So if you're in MLS and you don't make the playoffs, or you lose in the first round of the playoffs, however all that works, it's kind of a failure. But if in the Premier League, if you're a mid-table club and you finish and you stay up, or you have a mid-table, I mean, it's kind of like an accomplishment. You look back and say, actually, that wasn't that bad a season. Whereas American sports are very all or nothing. You know what I mean? Right. Like if the Bruins don't win the Stanley Cup, it's going to be a failure of a season. You know what I mean? Because they didn't win the Stanley Cup. Whereas West Ham finished 10th, and it's like, hey, actually, that's all right.
Right. The expectations are different. But so back to what you guys are saying. Long story short, how did I keep the fire? I think just being involved in soccer and just being involved with the Philadelphia Union and MLS and making soccer an everyday thing in my life. I played on an amateur team for half a season when I was in Philly, and then they got actually good and didn't need me anymore. I helped start them, and then they're like, "Yeah, you're ass," and I'm like, "Oh, can we swear on this?" No, sorry.
Yeah, of course.
Okay, yeah, they said they said you're absolutely ass.
Have you ever seen this show?
Yes, I have. I remember the crazy lady you had on. Okay, so
Gary, don't worry about what you say. Nothing you say is going to sound worse than what Gary said.
So long story short, just trying to stay involved. What gives you guys what keeps you guys going every week? Is it doing this? Obviously, I know you guys just started this, and our podcast is only the second season. I guess we'll talk about that later.
Yeah, we'll get to that in a minute. Yeah,
but just trying to what keeps you guys involved? Is it just the friends you made? What's your story?
I don't know, Justin. What do you think? You go first.
Yeah, I think I alluded to it before. I really got into it that 15-16 season, which was the first year after I graduated college, and I came back to Chicago. And I hit up Matt, who is an expat that lives in Chicago, and started the Chicago Hammers up, and I just started going to games, and our crew has gotten bigger as the years have gone on. And yeah, I think for me, it's just the camaraderie with the guys. I consider them friends. We hang out occasionally outside
of West Ham.
Yeah. So it's always, it's like, yeah, you go there to see West Ham, but you're also going there to catch up with everyone, see how everyone's doing. You're hanging out with your friends. And so I think I always say to myself that if I didn't have that group, or at least that solid of a group, it's a safe bet that I wouldn't be as into West Ham as I am. I think I'd still be into him, but maybe not as into them as I am now.
Can I jump off of a point you made there about your camaraderie and your friends? I think if there's anything that I ever get disappointed about moving back to America is the routine I had every single week during the season. It was get up, go to, at the time when I was living there, we met at a place called Bar One. I know a lot of people go to the Carpenters or a few other places. But this was when I was living there, was before the Supporters Club officially moved to a place called Stour Space. I had a same group of friends. We met the same time, went to the same bar, and had the same conversations, the same catch up, the same banter, the same "your accent is shit" conversations every week. Go to away games. Always met at someone's house. Drove up. We typically didn't take the train because we weren't living in London. They would pick me up in Oxford. Drove up every week. Went to the away pub. Got there early. Got a table because away pubs are always rammed. And we did the same stuff every week. And yes, it's that camaraderie. It's that group of friends that I miss every week.
Yeah, it's like that quote. It's like, I'm going to butcher it, but it's something along the lines of football without fans is nothing, or something like that.
It is.
And that's why I love soccer, to be honest, and more European soccer than MLS, although the MLS and the passion around MLS teams is growing every year. But obviously it's another level in England. So yeah, man, that's sort of what drew me to the whole sport, not just West Ham, but the whole sport. How did you, by the way, just curious, how did you talk about, you allude to all these friends that you had in London.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how did you get this crew? So yeah.
So that first trip, the Leicester game, right?
Mm-hmm.
The final opening day at the Bowling. I went over by myself, and let's see, I would have been 21, maybe 22, which is not old, but it's not young, but it's not old either. Go to Europe by yourself, and I went over there, didn't know a single soul, not one person over there, and I messaged the Pittsburgh Hammers. Because they're in PA. I knew the Philadelphia guys kind of sort of from when I was living there. But I messaged the Pittsburgh Hammers and said, hey, do you know anybody who'd be willing to have a beer with me? I have no idea what I'm doing, no idea how to get to Upton Park, Green Street, Bowling Ground, any of that. I was lost. And I printed out directions or had my phone, but it's not the same. Yeah. The guy goes, get in touch with this other guy. And I don't want to put his name out there, and I'm sure you guys understand. But he met up with me and took me to the Supporters Club. So not the Bowling Pub, but there was I'm sure you guys know the Supporters Club, and took me in there, introduced me to his group of friends, and we hit it off immediately. Like, he loves the Pittsburgh Penguins. I'm a Philadelphia Flyers. Introduced to their group. They like American sports. It was great banter. If you ask them and interview them, they'll say they hated me, but they secretly loved me right off the bat. Go ahead.
What did you know about West? I mean, why do you think you got along with them so well? Did you come in with a pretty solid knowledge of the club? Did that help? I mean, how do they treat you as a Yank? Because you never know. Every now and then you run into somebody who says oh, you can't be a West Ham fan if you're an American, or even you can't be a West Ham fan if you're not from East London.
So here's my official stance on that, and this is why I think we got along with them, or why I got along with them immediately, is because I don't give a fuck. No, I'm serious. I have this fucking attitude.
That's true.
Where I don't have to, and this is, I think, American soccer fans in general, not just West Ham, a lot, feel this need to prove ourselves.
Yes.
That we like soccer.
Yes. Yeah. Totally.
Why? Why do we have to prove that we like soccer? Okay, for someone who just started in 2015, okay, so what? You're just as a fan as I am.
Right.
Or if I started in 1980, look at Scott. You guys know Scott Davis?
Yes, we do. We had him on the show. Yep.
Yes, of course. He was on our show the other week too. So, it's okay, well, he started a long time before me. Scott's no more of a fan than I am, and I'm no more of a fan than Scott.
If you live and die with it, that's all that really matters.
Right. So like you were saying, how did I get on with them? I didn't have to fill out a quiz. I didn't go over there trying to prove myself. I'm like, okay, hey guys, what's up? I like West Ham. And they're like, great. But there's a lot of people on Twitter on both sides, in my opinion, American fans that feel that they need to prove themselves, and British people that feel like they need to quiz
Yes.
American fan. It kind of reminds me about women in sports. And there's a lot of dudes out there. Like, I'm all for women in sports, by the way. Like, random tangent.
Yeah.
There's a lot of dudes, like Alex Scott. Do you guys know the commentator in England? I believe she does BBC Sport.
I've met her, believe it or not. I've actually met her in person. Yeah.
Right. So she gets a whole bunch of crap on Twitter all the time. Okay. So because she's a woman in sport, and they make her have to prove herself more. I relate to that for American soccer fans.
Yeah.
Who wear a Manchester United jersey to a Philadelphia Union game.
Well, what kills me
Why?
about American fans, what kills me about MLS fans is some of them just try way too hard.
Mm-hmm.
They try way too hard to sound and be European. And I understand bringing the –
Just love it.
Right, just love it. Just make it be natural. You know,
Yeah.
you go to the Revs games. Not many people do go to Revs games, by the way. But if you go to a Revs game, you get – there are some of the supporters groups there who they're just trying way too hard.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like it's cringeworthy because there's so much effort there. It's not authentic. You know what I mean?
Right.
To me, if you love it, just be authentic about it. Sing when it's time to sing, cheer when it's time to cheer. Just do what you would at any other sporting event. But they go with this whole idea of like, oh, we have to sing, we have to sing this song, we have to wave this flag, we have to look, we have to look European, otherwise we won't have credibility. But I think it has the opposite effect. It makes them look like they're trying too hard, which they are.
Yeah. And Tony, you mentioned those those Twitter people that are like feeling like you feel like they're quizzing Americans.
Right.
I'm just speaking from personal experience. All the English people that I met in person, at least, have always been like, either they're like, "Oh, you're West Ham," I'm sorry, like that, or
right.
West Ham, like, "Oh, I'm West Ham too. That's awesome. We have something in common." And they've always been kind to me.
Yes.
So I'm just wondering, like, if maybe it's just sort of like a keyboard warrior type of thing, where everyone's sort of hiding behind there. Yeah.
Exactly. It's whatever. For example, our podcast sometimes gets hate.
Yeah.
But sometimes we get a lot of love, but sometimes we get hate.
If you're getting hate, you're doing something right, man.
Well, people are paying attention. Right. People are paying attention. That's all that matters.
People are always going to try. If they look at you and they're like, wow, this guy has a passion. He's doing something about it. He has a podcast. He's actually taking action and putting content out there. They're only like looking at you because of the insecurities that they have about themselves for not taking action in their own life. So good for you to get hate, man.
Well, okay, but think about you guys' platform here, right? Y'all's platform. If you guys,
by the way, I'm just a guest. Lee and Tim.
Okay.
No, nobody's a guest. Everybody's family. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Tim runs the show. I'll tell you that. He does a great job, and so I'll give all the credit to him. Everybody else is just like we're all in it together.
Okay, so my question to you is: if you only got one view every week, do you enjoy doing it?
I would still do it.
Exactly.
I'm sure our first episode got one view because it was just Tim and I talking about transfer deadline day.
But that's my point.
It's even online. Go back and watch the first episode. It's just the two of us, 2 miles apart on the internet.
But you enjoy doing it, so it doesn't matter. That's what I'm saying. So being a West Ham fan, I know we got off a tangent here, but so for example, we were talking about me when I went to the pub. They didn't quiz me. It was people to people, and they're like, "You like West Ham? Great." So the American Hammers TV, you get one view, you get 5,000. You still enjoy doing it. Our podcast. Some weeks we have one listen. Some weeks we have 1,000 listens. It doesn't matter. I get so worked up, and now I got on this tangent. You guys are like, "Can you shut the fuck up?"
It's important,
but it is really important to me that people feel like they need to prove themselves when just go out and enjoy West Ham. Go out and enjoy soccer in general. Don't feel like, okay, so you call it football. Great. Okay, that's how you grew up and always called it football. I call it soccer.
Soccer? Ron Greenwood called it soccer. There's a famous quote from Ron Greenwood where he uses the word soccer.
Or Soccer AM TV or Soccer AM, the program over there. So my point is just now I just got all wound up. Just enjoy, just enjoy it. That's all I have to say.
I think it's easier as a West Ham fan to enjoy it, and one of the reasons is because the club has never been all that successful.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have as many fans as other clubs. Nobody thinks we're glory hunters. I mean, the English guys we've met and talked to, English women as well for that matter, most of them have asked us, why do you do this? Like, why do you even support West Ham to begin with? Much less come on, on the internet every twice a week and do this. I don't know. We just love the club. It's unusual for anybody who's not from East London to love West Ham for a lot of reasons. But I think there's more of a family atmosphere with West Ham. Today I was talking to a friend at work who's a big Liverpool supporter. He's a really good guy. And he's going to watch the Champions League final at a bar in Boston on Saturday. And he's got the game's at 3:00. He's got to get to the bar at like 10:00 in the morning. Because what they do is they take the Liverpool supporters club in Boston and they let those members into the bar first.
Right.
Everybody else comes in after, right? Well, he only moved from Minnesota like a year ago. So he's not in the club because they've had the membership closed for 2 years.
Right.
They decided there's enough Liverpool fans in the club. I cannot imagine this ever happening at West Ham under any circumstances, especially in this country, where somebody would say, "Oh, we have enough fans. Where everybody else has to be shut out now until we decide to open our doors back up." I mean, I wouldn't want to be part of a group like that. I wouldn't want to show up at the pub for a match and then have somebody walk in front of me and say, "Oh, sorry, I'm a card-carrying, Boston Supporters Club member." I mean, I would walk away.
Yeah,
I don't think it's going to happen with us. I don't think it works that way. So
yeah, I'd like to think that even if we ever did get that big, we wouldn't be that exclusive. I mean,
I agree. We would welcome everybody and say, "Hey, we're glad you're here. Come on in. First come, first serve. Be part of the family." That's what I would do.
Yeah.
Except if we got an enormous amount of money and got really good, and all of a sudden there was a huge bandwagon.
Yeah, which you would get. You would get.
You would. Right. Newcastle will soon have hundreds of thousands of Americans walking around in barcode shirts. Now that they've got the money. And honestly, if that happened, then I'd be a little bit resentful. Do you know what I mean?
I'm going to respectfully disagree with you if you don't mind, though.
No, go ahead.
I think the idea of having a bunch of bandwagon fans does not concern me whatsoever, because I think, for example, my buddy Pete, he was going to see Man City when they were at Ellen Road is
Main Road.
Who's what was their old stadium called? Main Road. Okay, for City.
Yeah.
He's been going to see City before they moved, before they got rich, has a City tattoo and stuff. So I think you will keep the same passionate people who were here before.
Oh, sure.
You guys, me. Yeah. But then you add a whole bunch of other people. I think that's a good thing.
And honestly, those bandwagon people aren't going to be really coming to the pub a lot anyways. Like, they may show themselves here and there. And if they're bandwagon, like, I'm not going to hate on them. It's just like a little annoying for some guy to walk in and be like, "I know everything." Yeah, but you're going to have that in life no matter what. So it's like, it'll be annoying, but you'll still have the passion. You'll know who the passionate people are.
Of course.
I would still welcome them into the pub. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
I might be annoyed by the fact that they only signed on after West Ham started winning, but I wouldn't tell them, "You have to wait outside while everybody else walks in because we're part of the club and you're not." I wouldn't do that. I would never do that. I would still welcome them in and say, "Hey, come have a seat. Let's talk about it. If you just started supporting West Ham last week, great. Let's talk about it." I think it would be, I will admit that I'd be a little bit resentful of somebody who just jumped on, the day before we're in the Champions League final, theoretically. But I'd still sit next to him at the pub and say, "I'm glad you're here." And obviously it doesn't work that way with Liverpool supporters, at least in Boston. And there are a lot of them. I get that. But they close their membership for 2 years. I mean, who do they think they are?
They think they're Liverpool. That's what they think they are. I want to mention one last thing about being a West Ham fan as well, or at least add one more thing to the discussion. That I think West Ham and being a West Ham fan is so much more. Because you guys were saying the family thing, and I agree. And my talking point, or when everyone says, "Why do you like West Ham?" beyond when did you start, is the opportunities that West Ham gave me as a supporter, beyond success, is very important to me. So you're like, what do you mean by that? I would never have a season ticket if I didn't have any other team.
Yep.
There's no way I would have been able to get a season ticket if we didn't move to the London Stadium.
Mm-hmm.
And even at the bowling, let's say that random guy was selling his tickets and I got in on that. We were at Upton Park. Okay. You wouldn't get that at Liverpool. They have years and years and years and years of waiting lists. Chelsea, you can't even get a single game ticket.
And you want to talk about people who would quiz you and look down
of course
at you and judge you. They're the worst about that stuff.
or meeting a random guy.
The worst about that stuff. Yeah,
Exactly.
I mean, they don't have the family mentality or the family
Mhm.
atmosphere. They're very elitist about their own support.
Right. So yeah, exactly. So meeting a random guy who takes you into the supporters club. I don't think that would happen at any other club, any other big club. Maybe like another small club, but any other big club. So whenever someone asks, "How do you suffer through the pain of losing every week or sucking?" I remember how much that Everton game meant to me. The scenes that day, the Huddersfield game earlier this season, in my living room, watching with my buddy Clay, the Chelsea fan, and my elation for coming back beating a Huddersfield when this man was ready to quit the season. I don't question his fandom at all. He's a good Chelsea fan. Not that he needs my approval, but he was distraught this season after finishing third and how poor quotation sorry was and winning the Europa League. What is that?
I've always said the same thing. I mean, one of the reasons West Ham chose me, and that is how I think of it, is that every time we win, it's a big deal. Every time we win. I don't care if we beat Macclesfield in the cup, one of the cup, competitions. I don't care if it's Tottenham away. I don't care if it's Southampton at home. It doesn't matter. Every time we win, it's a big deal. And I love the feeling of, as you said, elation every time we win. And I don't ever – I think if we ever did, become extremely successful, there was a part of that would die because you'd get to the point where it'd be like, let's be honest, it'd be like being a New England Patriots fan is a lot less fun than it was, 15 years ago, 20 years ago, because the expectations are high. And, now if they don't win the Super Bowl, it's a big failure. It was a lot more fun in the 90s, actually, when they were strugglers and every win was a big deal. And if they made the playoffs, it was a big deal. It's the same thing with West Ham. Every win is like, it makes my whole weekend and my whole midweek, I don't ever want to get to the situation like my friend who was a big PSG guy. And I know people say I mention PSG in every broadcast, and maybe that's true. But I had a friend I worked with here in Boston who was he's from Paris, a big PSG guy. And every weekend they would play. Every weekend they'd be expected to win. He didn't even care, Yeah. And we would just say, oh, we should be fine. Oh, it's Nantes. Oh, it's Marseille. Oh, it's, whatever. We'll beat them. It'll be fine. I can't support a club like that. I have to have the mystery and I have to have the tension and then the elation of, even as you said, friggin' Huddersfield, they're going to be relegated. They're terrible. Doesn't matter. What a fantastic victory. It made my whole weekend.
Totally.
It was great. So tell me about when and how and why you started the podcast. I just listened to Brawley's interview with the former
Bobby Madley.
Yeah, and that was really good. You guys do a great job, by the way. I want to tell you that you guys do a fantastic job. You've been an inspiration to us. And we appreciate what you do for the club. But where'd the idea for a podcast come from? And how'd you start up with a guy in St. Louis?
So Brawley actually knew the guy who I met up with for that first trip.
Oh.
And he and I met. So Brawley and I met in North Carolina when West Ham played in North Carolina.
Okay.
So I drove I think to Raleigh it was about 7.5 hours down, and I think he drove close to maybe 11 or 12 hours from St. Louis. I don't know what that would be. Point of the story is we met for the first time there, and Brawley and I have only actually met in person twice. We met there, and once when we both were at Stoke away when I lived over there, and he came over for an away game. But I feel like Brawley is one of my best friends now. Hanging out every single week via video chat. We're in a group chat together. I feel like he knows me just as good as anyone else. So anyway, like you were saying about the podcast, I had a Philadelphia Union podcast called The Shady Side, and we did maybe 12 episodes and realized, this was fun, but we don't really want to do this anymore. And I was like, I enjoyed podcasting. I don't know if I'm any good at it. It's very up to debate, but I just enjoyed doing it. So I said, hey, Brawley.
I think you're doing a great job, like Lee said. I think you guys are getting better and better.
Oh, I think you're at the, although hey Tony, let me ask you something.
Yeah.
This rap at the beginning.
That's a guy I went to high school with. I was like, we need some intro tunes, and I said to Brawley, do you care if I hit up my buddy because I want something a little less conventional?
All right, that's fair.
X and Dave on the West Ham Way have their music, but they're also a radio show, so they get a little more variety.
Right.
More Than Just a Podcast is the other one that I often listen to, and they have their Bobby Moore and Sir Jeff. They're like strumming along there, and I'm like, okay, we need something a little different. So some people love it, some people hate it. I'm a big rap guy, though. I love rap music. So
yeah, I really liked it. I thought exactly. It was like totally. I was like, what is going on right now? And then I was like, at first I thought it was. I didn't really like catch the West Ham lyrics at first, but when it was all said and done, I was like, that was cool.
It's really pretty good. I thought it was in the wrong podcast, or that I had like turned on like internet radio or something, but I didn't know. I don't know. I'm not really like, I don't listen to a lot of rap, if I'm honest, but I used to. But
yeah, I'm a big. Mo Stack is. I listen to a lot of British rap too from living over there. But point of the story about the podcast is, I said to Brawley, "Do you want to do this?" He said, "Sure." We got on our computers. We did it the first day. I edited the podcast, and it took me about 4 hours to do this, right?
So you edit it, because we don't do anything after we do these things. We just put them up.
So I learned that the hard way. I was editing it, trying to make it perfect, blah, 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 blah. Yeah. Now, we don't edit it. The only thing I do is I patch in the music, and it takes me 10 minutes to upload it up to SoundCloud. We've got it down to a T that we know each other's cues and stuff, just like you guys, where you don't do any editing. But the inspiration came from, I said to him from day one, and he agreed. The moment we stop having fun doing this, we're not going to do it anymore.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
So I don't know if you guys noticed, but the last few weeks, we would do maybe an episode once a month, because Brawley would be busy. I would be busy. We don't have a sponsor, so we don't get paid. It actually cost us money.
We get paid in coffee, which we really appreciate, by the way.
Well, if they're looking for another sponsor, let me know, because I like to get paid in coffee.
Ask Tim, because we get paid in coffee. It's the only way we get paid is in coffee. But it's something. And a couple of people have bought coffee from us, so yeah, it's all right.
But yeah, so I said the moment we stop having fun doing this, we're gonna stop doing it. But I give all the credit. Brawley and I have like a little thing going where he is really good at booking people. That is his thing. Like he somehow landed Bobby Madley this week, the referee. That episode just dropped today. Yeah, because I put it up last night.
I listened to it at work today. Yeah.
He booked us Arlo White.
Yeah, that was amazing. Yeah, that was great.
Crazy. He is the one who Jonathan Clegg, the guy who wrote a book called The Club. Mm-hmm. Brawley kills it. Just doesn't give a fuck. He goes out there and says, "Hey, do you want to come on our podcast? We can't pay you, but it'll be a fun time. If you can, great. If you can't, then no worries." And that's what happened. Yeah, these people get back to us and they're like, "Yeah, sure."
That's what Tim does for us. Tim has booked every guest we ever had except one or two. I think I booked the author of The Guy Who Wrote An Irrational Hatred of Everything. Other than that, Tim has booked everybody. He's super aggressive. He's like he never. Yeah.
What's the worst they say? No.
Somebody like that. Yeah. You have to.
And I do the editing. So Brawley does the bookings. I do the editing, and I run the Twitter account. He'll respond to things, but all the scheduled tweets of "Hey, new pod," blah blah blah, I do. So we have a nice little team going, and I enjoy it. It's tough, I'm sure, as you know, to keep content going and keep flowing, because some days, in honesty, I don't want to do it. And I think the days that our podcast listens are low, I see a direct correlation of how I hear my voice in the podcast when they'll be like, oh, I can go back and listen, and I could say, okay, I didn't bring that energy, and I can see that people tuned out because they were like, this guy's boring as shit today. I see it.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like my kids sometimes, like my 5-year-old who never, ever wants to go to soccer on Saturday mornings, but then he gets there and he loves it, complains and screams and cries, and he gets there and he thinks it's great. It's awesome. So I always take a video of him and I say, Andrew, did you have fun? Yeah, I had fun. So that I can show him later on.
Back.
Yeah, remember this? So because I get the same way. I get home, I'm tired. 9 o'clock rolls around, just put the boys to bed. I'd love to just watch TV and go to bed. But you know what? Every time I get up here to do this, I love doing it. It's so much fun.
I agree.
I wouldn't do it if it wasn't fun. I'm with you. I wouldn't do it if it wasn't fun. But so I'm curious as to where you guys have you guys broken down where your listeners are from, or are they mostly actually Americans? Or because we have a lot of UK viewers, like more than half of our viewers are from the UK.
Yeah, so I have a stat here, and I can just pull it up from the beginning of when we actually started the show. So let's see, all-time stats. So let's see. Majority of our listeners are actually from the UK.
Mm-hmm.
I would say about, if I do quick math, 60%. I would say another maybe 30% the United States. And then our other biggest territories are Australia, New Zealand, Canada, Hong Kong, and Spain.
Spain, that's interesting.
So
Yeah.
those are where many of ours. We have a lot of them from like small countries like UAE, because I know there's a lot of English people who live in like Dubai. We have Ireland, Germany. The only one that's surprising is I was a lot surprised how less there is from like Belgium. Here is only 12. Italy, some of those other European countries, but at the same time, I only speak English. So.
Well, they do too, though, for the most part. But yeah, it's funny to me that we really, we go for the American audience, obviously, but we get a majority English audience. But I guess on one hand, I kind of like that because it means that we're credible enough that they watch us. They don't think we're just a bunch of yahoos.
Mm-hmm.
On the other hand, we really want to bring American West Ham fans together, so I'd like to get more of us, in the mix. But it's nice that there are people in the UK who think, it's quality enough to watch. So I appreciate that.
And I would respect people for our podcast if they don't listen to it, and I'd be like, okay, no worries.
Right.
Doesn't bother me. I'm not everybody's cup of tea. Nobody wants to hear me say y'all and talk about Everton away every podcast. It's okay. That's fine.
Well, like you said earlier, like even if you only had one listen, you'd still do it, right? Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. I'd probably do it for nobody. I'd sit around and talk to myself about West Ham for an hour easily. So if somebody else wants to listen, that's even better.
Well, okay, my bad.
No, I was going to say sometimes I have just sat around talking to myself about West Ham because they pissed me off so much.
Me too. I do that. This is very therapeutic for me. Justin, you were talking about how it's been so good for you to be with all the fans when you watch the games. I don't get that experience very often. I do have my buddy Ken up in New Hampshire. I've talked about him a lot. He's a really good dude. We watch games together when he can. He has a pilot schedule, so he's not always home on the weekends. But what I have found is that I've watched a lot of West Ham on my own, which is kind of painful. So doing this, because my schedule is such that I often end up watching like a replay, or I coach my son's soccer team. Those games are at 10:30 on Saturday mornings. There's not much you can do. Mm-hmm. So I have it's a strange schedule, but I find that doing this show has been therapeutic because I get people on, and it's like we can all commiserate in the bad times, and celebrate in the good times. In the bad times, we can all sit around and say, "Yeah, I felt the same way," or "This really pissed me off," or it's like a therapy session. It's like group therapy.
Yeah.
I don't know if you, Tony. I don't know if you think that way. I mean, I know the podcast is a little different because I don't know if you have guests as often. You have a lot of guests. I don't know if you have them as often as we do, but I don't know if you feel the same way about it's like going to it's getting enough stuff off your chest basically in a public way.
A big complaint that we often get is that we typically agree. That's actually one of our biggest. We ask people to send us emails.
Yeah.
Not with complaints, but with constructive criticism, so we can grow and get better. One of the biggest things is we are always asked, why don't you get a third person on there that would disagree with you? Right. Mm-hmm. That's why we sometimes try to get a guest. Yeah. But I think what makes us a bit different is, and I don't know if this is going to hurt our brand or not, me saying this, but for me, I get to hang out with my pal Brawley.
Yeah.
So respectfully, I don't do the podcast for the listeners. I do it for everybody because I enjoy people listening to me, and I do love answering the Q&A.
Yeah.
But in a non-rude way, I'm self-centered where I get to hang out with my pal. So it's tough to include outside people. That's just a me thing. But one of the quick stories I wanted to tell, if you don't mind, is I'm growing out of that because I met a guy through the podcast, my friend Nick, who introduced me to my other friend Dan, two guys in New York. I was up there for the Everton away game this season, and this guy says to me, "Hey, you sound familiar. I saw the American West Ham guys posted there in New York. Are you Tony? I was like, yo, that's weird, but okay. Shout out Nick. Then I became friends with Nick. And then he introduced me to our friend Dan. And long story short, I've grown out of let's do this for me and trying to do this for everybody. But at the same time, it's a me. I enjoy doing it. The moment like I always say, the moment I stop, there's a gambling ad in England that says when the fun stops, stop. That's how I feel about the podcast. Respectfully.
No, it makes total sense. It does. And the people we've met have been amazing. I mean, even though I've only met very few of them in person, really just the guys from Boston in person. But I feel like a friend to, like Wayne in Dallas and Kostya in DC and Justin and Kyle in Fresno and all the guys, and some of the guys in England too, have been fantastic. And some of the English guys who live over here. I'm on like a West Ham Twitter message now, like a direct message thing that people are going back and forth, American West Ham fans. It's been great. It's been great. As a matter of fact, Tony, Tim is helping me with this because I can't ever do anything on my own. I want to do a quick shout out to the chat room, if you guys don't mind.
Yeah, okay.
I don't even know how to look at it. Tim always watches it. I don't know how to watch it while I'm doing this. I'm too concentrated on talking, But Gabe and Wally are on always. Gabe is our buddy from Austin who's like 16. Wally is older than 16, but he's on the chat room for every show. They're going to be on the show here pretty soon.
Oh, cool.
Brawley's on watching you.
Oh shit! So he's going to text me in a second.
Brawley's he's taking notes. And he's going to like all the things you do all the things you say he doesn't agree with. He'll disagree. Maybe have something to talk about on the show.
Oh, he's going to say, why would you say some of that dumb shit about the podcast so that you don't love our fans? No, I do love all of our fans. I want to put that out there.
Gerald is on.
Make me sound like a dickhead.
Do I know Gerald? Do I remember Gerald? Have we had Gerald on? I can't remember. I'm so sorry. I'm so bad with names. Anyway, Charlie Walsh and Tom Atherton from Hammer's Chat are on. And I got to mention, Tony, I don't know if we've talked to you. I have no idea. Tim and I are doing this 24-hour Isla Caton charity broadcast.
Okay, cool.
Hammer's Chat is doing 24 hours, consecutive hours of broadcasting, which would be my divorce papers right there if I tried. But anyway. So I just would write the child support checks immediately. But no, they're doing 24 hours consecutive broadcasting. So Friday night, that's tomorrow night. Oh, God, that's tomorrow night. Oof. Think about that. Friday night, 9 o'clock Eastern, I'm going to be on with them for an hour. 10 o'clock Eastern, Tim's going to be on with them for an hour. And I think Wayne from Dallas comes on after that. So we're all doing it. So it'll be fun. It'll be fun with the Hammer's Chat guys. They're great. That's another great group, though. What's funny is like when we started doing this, the whole idea was like, hey, let's find the supporters group in Dallas and talk. Now it's like there are all these West Ham. There's this whole West Ham universe out there. I'm sure you guys have discovered the same thing. It's so much bigger than just like individual fans.
I think it's for us. I don't understand because we're not. I don't consider us a part of it. There's a lot of competition over there for viewership. Yeah. But I've said it on the podcast, but I'll say it on here too because I'm not sure who all listens, but. I do want to thank everybody from all those forums and what they've done for Brawley and I, Gonzo from Hammer's Chat, Nigel and Sean from More Than Just a Podcast, X and Dave, on West Ham Way.
Yeah, you guys got X. That was awesome. You guys got X.
Those
some members of the American Hammers TV staff were not too happy that you got X before we did.
Those three platforms and Baz. And the Rib Man, there's a lot of people who have a lot of high Twitter presence, we'll call it that, who have really helped us grow ours. So that's a formal thank you to them, And
it speaks to your credibility, Tony, that they come on and they do that because if they didn't think you were credible, they wouldn't do it, And that's the way I look at what all of us are doing. I know that they compete a lot over there for viewership. It's a little different because we're such a niche thing here. There are more West Ham fans in the U.S. than I thought there were, but there aren't like millions. There are thousands, right? Maybe hundreds of thousands at a stretch. Maybe if we do our work well enough. But I never think of us as competing with you or anybody else. I always think of us as all being on the same team, on the same side, trying to have fun and do something good for the club that maybe pushes the club forward in a tiny little way. Maybe we sell some more shirts or maybe, I don't know. You know what I mean? I have no idea. I don't know what the tangible result is, but maybe there's some tangible result that, maybe West Ham, moves forward just a little bit as a result of what we're doing. That would be great.
The thing is, your platform's different than ours because you're a video, so I don't consider us rivals at all.
No, not at all.
competing.
I don't think at all. At all. No.
Our only, I call him, quote, quote.
Oh, is he freezing on you, Justin? Hang on.
Yeah, Green Street and Green Street Hammers and their podcast. But I don't even consider them rivals because those are fantastic dudes, and I love their podcast as well, and Adam and all of them over there. So shout out to Green Street Hammers and their thing as well. You know.
Okay. Speaking of Green Street,
go ahead.
Do you like the movie?
Absolutely.
I do too.
It's a great movie.
It's a great movie. And I ain't ashamed of it.
I know.
There's like, oh, you watch Green Street, that's why you like West Ham. Okay, well, go fuck yourself.
I can't tell you how many times I've gotten that, man. And from like Chelsea fans too. I'm like, dude, you started watching.
Aren't they Football Factory anyway?
What's that?
Isn't Football Factory about Chelsea fans anyway?
Oh, Football Factory? I don't know. I've never seen that movie.
I think that's it's another similar style movie. Listen, it goes back to proving yourself though. Okay. Oh, you like West Ham because you watch Green Street. Okay, well, fuck you. 1, no. 2, I love that movie anyway. So even if it was, too bad.
Yeah.
I don't really care. I don't care how they get here as long as they get here. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I don't care how people come to West Ham as long as they do. And maybe that's because, I don't know, maybe it's because my father-in-law is a preacher. He says things like that about going to church. You know, but how I feel about West Ham. Let it come through Green Street. That's fine. It doesn't matter. I'm not saying it's objectively a great movie, but I like it. I enjoy it. And let me tell you something. That scene at the end, I mean, spoiler alert, I'm sure everybody here's what's seen it anyway.
If you haven't seen it by now, that's a problem.
If you haven't seen it, then it's too bad. The scene at the end when Elijah Wood comes back and gives a beat down to the guy who was trying to get him kicked out of Harvard, and he sings Bubbles. Dude, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's so good. It's just like, I know
I've never been in a fist fight though, so I don't plan on being one. I'm a non-violent person.
Oh no, I am too. I'm a total pacifist. Very non-violent. Very like, yeah. I mean,
Justin's out here like I whoop people's ass every day. So. Like he didn't say nothing. He just sat there like I don't do that.
Yeah, well, Justin looks a little bit tougher.
Yeah, I'm gonna say that.
I'm not tough at all, man. I'm not tough at all.
No, I don't really like football violence, which I know sounds weird, but I wouldn't want to be a part of it. No. I think it's largely kind of barbaric, but I mean, it did happen, and it does happen, and it's not uninteresting. It is interesting, you know.
Yeah, totally.
The books are interesting. The movie, I've read Cass Pennant's books. Mm-hmm. Listen, I don't know how much of it's true, but it's a good read. It's a good writer.
I'm sure it's true.
I'm sure most of it is true. I'm sure most of it is true. He seems like, actually, oddly enough, he seems like a really good dude, and people say he's a good dude, and so I believe it. You know,
I messaged him trying to get him on, failed. I didn't get a response. I'm going to be persistent, though.
Oh, I say keep it up. I bet he'll do it.
He has his own podcast now.
Yeah, he does. That's true.
I haven't listened yet.
Like, you know, Bill Gardner stops into, I think it's New York City Hammers, right? He stops in and watches matches with them sometimes. So, I mean, those old guys are still around. And listen, I mean, I might not have done what they did, but I will listen to their stories because it's definitely interesting. And The Firm, if you haven't seen The Firm, that's a great movie about hooligans. That's legitimately like the BBC movie from the 80s with Gary Oldman. Superb movie. And again, it's about West Ham. He's a West Ham, he's a West Ham.
Gary Oldman's in it?
Yes, it's his first role. It's his first, I think his first role he ever had, ever.
Wow. I gotta watch that.
All right, quick question for you guys.
Yeah. Go ahead. Sorry, I got off on a tangent. Go ahead.
Well, I don't know. What are our time constraints here? Do we have any, or what do you guys usually keep it around?
We usually give it about an hour. But
okay, quick fire question.
If you guys have 10 more minutes, I can do 10 more minutes before I get in trouble.
Is that all right, Justin? All right, quick question. Best soccer movie all time, go.
Oh, Escape to Victory. No, you guys tell me you've seen that.
Never seen that one. Skip to Victory.
I've never seen that one, man.
That's why I'm asking, because I need another soccer movie, because I have the best one.
In the U.S., it was called Victory. In England, it was called Escape to Victory.
Oh, Escape.
Bobby Moore is in this movie.
Oh.
Right? Michael Caine is in this movie, who's a former West Ham player. Pele's in it. Ozzy Odilis is in it. Sylvester Stallone is in it. John Huston was the director. If you look it up, they're
1981.
Yes, they're American prisoners of war. And they're in a Nazi camp, and they have a game against a team of Nazis. And all the while, they are plotting to escape the prison camp. So it kind of comes down to like, Do they play the game? Do they escape? It's actually a really good movie, and the football was legit in that movie. I mean, no kidding. Like, we're talking about Pele, Bobby Moore, Ozzie Ardiles, it's a bunch of other players I can't remember. It's legit. It's a great movie. Anyway, that's mine.
All right, Justin.
So, I mean, I haven't really seen a lot of soccer movies, and I've just realized that now. I've seen Green Street. I'm not going to say that, even though I do really like the movie. I've seen that movie Goal, like the new cast.
Santiago.
Yeah, I thought that was a good movie too.
Good.
I don't know if this counts as a soccer movie. Probably not what you were thinking, but I really like the movie Kicking and Screaming.
I knew that was
I love that movie.
Does that count as a soccer movie?
Yeah, we'll count it. I'll give it to you.
Okay.
Best soccer movie, got to give it a watch, is The Damned United.
Oh, that's
I've
a great movie.
heard of that. Yeah.
Got to watch that movie. One of my favorite soccer movies all time.
You know what, Tony? That's better than Escape to Victory. It's the best soccer movie I've seen. You're right. You're totally right.
I'm thinking about watching it tonight. It's 10:08. If I get done here.
No, there's another one. There's a documentary called Once in a Lifetime about the old New York Cosmos in the 70s.
Okay.
It's a documentary called Once in a Lifetime: The Extraordinary Story of the New York Cosmos. I have the poster in my spare bedroom downstairs. I saw that movie in the theater in Cambridge with like 4 other people on the one day it was in theater in Boston back in like 2008, something like that. Anyway, it's a documentary, but it's really good. The Cosmos of the 70s, in terms of like partying, you put them up against anybody of all time, anytime. It's a brilliant story. It's really well done. But Damn United is a great movie. Justin, if you haven't seen that,
can I see that movie on? Is that on like Amazon or something?
Yeah, I'm sure it's out there. It's old enough.
It's so good. It's about Brian Clough.
Yep.
One of my favorite figures in football.
Oh, at Nottingham, right?
Do what?
At Nottingham?
Nottingham to like 20 days at Leeds or something like that.
It describes. So it's the story of how he was manager of Leeds for something like 44 days.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. By the way, Tim mentioned the 4-year plan. It's a movie about QPR. I've heard that's good too. I wanted to throw that in.
The 4-year plan.
So Brian Clough was at Derby, and he was very successful at Derby. He got hired at Leeds, and he was there for like 44 days. It's not a spoiler alert to say this. It's the whole movie's about. It's about how he goes to Leeds for 44 days, and it's a total disaster. He's trying to replace this legendary manager. But it's a superb movie. The guy who's in it is what's his name?
Michael Sheen.
Yeah. He did a turn in 30 Rock where he played a British guy named Wesley Snipes. I just love 30 Rock. Anyway, great movie, Damn United, and it's based on a book, which was kind of a historical fiction type book, like a novel, but it was kind of true at the same time. So anyway, I haven't read the book, but I should read the book. Although to my memory, one of the Leeds players who's mentioned in the book actually sued the author of the book and won.
Oh, there you go.
It's a little like the book embellishes a little bit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But that's a great movie. Yeah. Have you read the book, Tony?
So I collect soccer books, but don't actually read them. So no, I haven't. Just if anyone ever comes over, they're always like, "Oh my God, he's so cultured."
I know, me too. I have
a whole bunch of like political books and shit. Everyone's like, "Oh my God, he's so smart." All my law books, I'm like, I ain't shit.
I have like How Soccer Explains the World. I have The Ball Is Round. Have I read these books? Not really read.
Perused.
Although I am reading Charles Core's History of West Ham, and it's really, I've read it before. I'm reading it. It's really good. It's really good. Tim, who's can't quit us no matter what he does. He's sending me a message. He says, Damn United is on Amazon Prime Video.
Nice.
That is and it's about my favorite era of history, which is the 70s. I'm born in the 70s and very caught up in the 70s, so I love it. But yeah,
nice. I'm not allowed to tell you what I'm reading now because Brawley put a rule on me. I'm not allowed to get political on any social media platform, so I can't tell you.
I listen.
So I can't tell you.
The last thing you want to do
offline, I can.
Yeah, I don't want to talk about politics.
No, absolutely not. I learned that lesson the hard way. We got ripped on Twitter.
I don't talk to anybody about politics.
So we'll avoid that completely. I just wanted to tell that story. We got ripped on Twitter because I made a throwaway comment. I'm not going to say what it was, and we got absolutely abused. They're like, keeps politics out of sports, and I'm like, you know what, dude, you're probably right. So we're going to keep that away.
I don't have any problem with athletes talking about politics if they want to. I don't have any problem with politics and sports colliding, but I just don't want to be part of it. That's all.
No. I have no problem with athletes doing it, but me as a forum, I don't want to be a platform for that.
Oh, it ruins everything. You get this nice like atmosphere built up, and then it just ruins everything. So yeah.
Okay, so I'll let you lead your your show. I apologize. I jumped on a tangent there. I'm like, I keep forgetting it's not my show, so I apologize.
It's everybody's show.
No, I know, but
it's the show.
You got to have a leader.
It's the show for all American West Ham fans. That's how I look at it anyway. Tim might be like, "Shut up, it's my show," which it is his show, but it's for all of us, I think, anyway. So. Oh yeah. Tim says the most abuse we ever had was when we were going to have Dom on. Dom, who's kind of an outspoken comment.
I love Dom.
Yeah.
I love Dom.
Well, we're going to have him on at some point. I just don't know when. Bubbles too, and I was upset I didn't get to do the Bubbles interview with Paul Colburn because I really wanted to talk to him. But we did that. Tim was between jobs and he was home during the day, and so we did it like in the middle of the day UK time, and I couldn't. My work situation was tenuous, and I couldn't get that day off. I really wanted to talk to him. That's also our most viewed video by very far.
I'm going to have to go back and listen to that because I will admit when we did our podcast, we started maybe a few weeks before all that went down. And I admittedly, without even knowing the guy, and I stand by what I said, but not even knowing the guy, I said some kind of nasty stuff. Like, I don't agree with this. I thought it was a disgrace, blah, 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 blah. But I am interested to go back and listen to that interview because maybe getting an understanding of his mentality or whatever happened, maybe there was no mentality. Maybe if I have a better understanding and can relate to somebody, sure. I just talking about that real quick. I could never have the balls to run on the field and lose my season tickets and not ever go again.
No.
That was the Burnley game, right?
Was that?
That was the Burnley game?
That was the Burnley game.
I was at that game, actually.
Oh, shit.
Right. That's right. Yeah.
It was, and I had brought two American friends of mine, and they're West Ham now, sort of because of that. Not really like the negativity, but they were like, wow, you guys are like super passionate. And then I wouldn't say they're like super into it, but like they follow along. Mm-hmm. They were like, oh my God, you hear about this stuff. And I didn't think I'd actually see it. It was quite the environment for sure. Yeah. Wow.
I would love to see that without being in it. Bubbles to me is somebody who is like he straddles the line between hero and villain.
That guy that like took the flag and planted it in
He's the guy, Paul Colburn's the guy who planted the flag, which was a reference to an issue right back in the late 80s when there was a bond scheme, and it's a lot to explain, but Terry Brown wanted people to have to buy with the club in order to get a season ticket. It was basically like fleecing the fans, pretty purely fleecing the fans. That's all it was. Yeah. And so at the time there was a pitch invasion where somebody went and planted the corner flag in the center of the pitch and said like enough, and he was making a reference back to that. He's a guy for me who kind of straddles the line between hero and villain. On one hand, I don't really care about pitch invasions. On the other hand, I genuinely believe if that demonstration doesn't happen, we don't spend £100 million in the summer. The board doesn't spend £100 million, and I don't think we finished 10th. I think we finished like 15th and struggled with another relegation season this year. I think it was a turning point for the club. Not all the way around, but it got the board to a point where they said, we're going to lose our fans. We're going to lose, not just they're not going to come, they're going to riot. We don't know what they're going to do, And
question for you guys. Do you think if the board from day one said, hey, this is what we're doing, but it's going to take, what was it, season 4? Did we finish 3 or 4?
Season 3.
Okay. So if they said to you, hey guys, we're doing this. Honestly, it's going to break all y'all hearts. It's going to be rough, and we're probably going to struggle the first 2 years. Year 3, we want to finish top half. Year 4 and 5, we want to push for Europe. Do you think that would have changed a lot of minds, or do you think everyone would be like, still, no, why do we have to do this?
I think that it would have been honest, but I think it would have been in the long run, it would have been the best thing to do. In the short run, it would have been more painful because people would have said, why are we leaving our 112-year-old stadium that we love in order to struggle for 3 years? That doesn't make any sense. Why would we do that? I think what they should have said was, listen, this is about survival in the Premier League. everybody's getting a new stadium. Tottenham are getting a new stadium. Chelsea, I think, have redone Stamford Bridge to some extent. Arsenal have a new stadium. Manchester City have a new stadium. I don't know. Even Southampton Stadium is only like 15 years old, something like that. I mean,
Old Trafford's redoing theirs.
Old Trafford's redoing. That's what I'm saying.
Palace.
Everybody's getting a new stadium. Everybody's getting the money. These clubs are getting bought out. Now we have Newcastle here in the last few days. I think if they had said to us, what you have to understand is without a 60,000 seat stadium, you will be a championship club for the next 25 or 30 years, maybe beyond. I think if they had said that, I'm not sure people would have believed it, but it was kind of true.
Mm-hmm.
And that would have been the best course of action. The problem is that's a hard sell to make.
Right.
It's much easier to come out and say, get pumped for a new stadium. We're going to be top 6. We're going to be champions. We're going to be in Europe. I don't think any of that was ever true. I don't think they ever thought it was true. But it's a lot easier to make that sale in order to get people excited about a controversial move than it is to say, this keeps us afloat.
Yeah,
I agree.
And I totally agree with you, Lee. Like in the long run, I think it would have been like now everyone would have been a lot more understanding. And even in the first 2 years of the London Stadium, I think people would have been just knowing what was coming. In the short term, yeah, especially like how good we did in the bowling season, it would have been very tough to leave. But I always think honesty is the best policy. And if people were honest in that situation, like at least West Ham fans couldn't say like you fucking lied to us and
Right.
away our team. They could still say in the long run. But it's those guys with all the money up there, like for some reason they're never honest about things. So not surprised the way it went down.
Well, David Sullivan is a career pornographer. I mean, I'm sorry, but he is. And
there's a sex store.
Regardless of what you think about that, that is not generally a way people make an honest living. It's just not an industry that turns out a lot of upstanding citizens. All right, it's not. I mean, it's like being a professional gambler. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it.
Chris Moneymaker.
It's shady. All right, it's going to get shady, and so he's a shady dude to me. Gold is different. I think Gold is more legitimate. And
about Brady,
I don't like the way she bashes her own players in the press. I don't like.
She gotta get rid of that column.
Yeah, she's got to get rid of that column. I used to have a little sympathy for her because I thought she got a lot of stick for being a woman. However, she's done some colossally stupid and just plain mean things, and it's hard to forgive. That's hard to forgive. It is. Listen, if she were a man, nobody would comment on her tits. Okay, let's just put it that way. You know what I mean? There's no reason to talk about what she looks like.
Yep.
It's no reason to say that.
Yep.
But some of the things she's done have been very detrimental to the club, and that's the truth, regardless of her gender. So I don't like her.
I'm okay.
And the way they've treated people, people who were around the club for a long time, and they came in and they cut a lot of ties, like things we didn't even know about. I talked to a guy the other day who, had been a guest of the club for many years, off and on, and they came in and that was over. It was just done. They just didn't do that anymore. So, I don't know. But no, I think if they had said, this is your Premier League survival, before that Tottenham Stadium opened, when it was theoretical, that was one thing. When that thing opened, let's not kid ourselves. That thing is stunning. I mean, that is 60.
That's beautiful.
Beautiful. It's brand new. It cost $1 billion with a freaking B. I mean, it's outrageous. It's sinful, But now that you look at it, you think, man, I think to myself, thank God we're in the Olympic Stadium. Not because it's a great stadium, but because if we're trying to compete with them in any way, with the 35,000 seat bowling ground that's frankly kind of falling apart, we're screwed, man.
I don't ever see us, and this is going to get maybe some shtick. I don't see them as competition. I see them as a rivalry, and I hate Spurs. I don't see them as competition at all.
Well,
I really don't,
because they're a lot bigger than me.
Even in the future, I think our biggest rivals, and I'm sure you guys would hopefully agree, Everton, Wolves, Leicester, and potentially Bournemouth. Even though I don't think they have the gate receipts and funding that the other four do.
I would have said Newcastle until recently.
Yeah.
But yes, in that group, yes. Everton is probably the one that comes to mind. To me, they're a lot like us. A whole lot. I
find our stadium better than Goodison Park.
It is.
It's bigger. I wouldn't say any better. I was at Leicester. I took my dad to his first ever soccer game, and it was an away day. We went to the King Power.
Right.
Coincidentally, it was the helicopter day, unfortunately.
Oh, no.
Yeah, I was there for that one.
Oh, wow.
Wolves, now they're going to be redoing the Molineux, but as of now, I would put the London Stadium higher. Bournemouth, I'd put it better than the Vitality. I believe that's what it's called. So, I don't know.
I mean, I know why people don't like it. I get it. I know why people love the Berlin. I went to the Berlin. I got to go before it closed. I went 9 years ago. It was fantastic. It's an experience I'm really glad I had. It was not sustainable. I mean, emotionally, we all miss it. Anybody who ever got to go there misses it. I'm sure all the season ticket holders miss it. They're the ones who have to go to every game. They're the ones who suffer at the new place, you know. But in a financial sense, I mean, it was a necessity to have a new stadium. Mm-hmm. Just as it may someday be a necessity to sell out to some, you know, oil monarch, an oil sheikh somewhere, if that ever presents itself. We can't run and hide and pretend that it's still, you know, 1980. Yeah. You can put together an English squad of, you know, scrappy guys on a limited budget and go out and win trophies. This doesn't work that way anymore. You know, so I don't know. That's where it comes from for me. So, but we've probably gone on long enough.
Yeah. I appreciate y'all letting me go on for that long. I do get a little wordy. I do apologize, but I have fun with doing this. This is great.
This is great. I'm a talker. I've always been a talker, and I'm afraid it shows on this show too. But Tony, listen, I had to do a play on words, so then just sent me a picture of myself. Why do you do that? I don't want to see myself. Anyway, I had to do a play on words. So this episode is now called "It's Always Tony in Philadelphia."
Hey,
even though you're not in Philadelphia, I paid a little tribute to the funniest TV show of all time. Well, in the neighborhood of Curb Your Enthusiasm, and I don't know what else.
Arrested Development.
Arrested Development, sure. It's in the pantheon. To me, it's in the pantheon. So it's always Tony Philly. But anyway, Justin, awesome co-host. Thank you so much for doing this.
Thanks for having me.
I want you to come back frequently, so we'll talk about it. Yeah. Tony, American West Ham Podcast. Everybody knows where to find that. You and Brawley, you do a fantastic job. Thanks for being on the show, and I'm sure we'll talk to you guys again soon.
I appreciate it, man.
All right, come on, you Irons.
Irons.